It's just cars, man. They're acting like you're doing problem. We have real crime and real problems. We don't need to be bothered. And I tell you what, too. You know another thing? If any of these car people, you guys ever bothered? Code or the city or anything? You come get me. I'll tell them to get back on the sidewalk and get off your property and leave you alone. I firmly stand with that. That is not their business to be telling you what to do with your stuff. There's going to be a newer thing that I'm going to push for. The code enforcement and the city stuff's going to show up as a mediator, an advocacy. Mm-hmm. The accuser, and whoever's accused can show up and talk about it. I think that'll build forth a much better sense of community.
From Olympic City and the home of Pikes Peak, this is the Automotive ADHD Show with Matt West.
And here we are, rocking it on the Automotive ADHD Show. Matt West here, hanging out with you, talking cars on the weekend. Excited to give you some really great information this weekend. Jim Miller has a huge announcement that he is going to make. It is a massive announcement, and we're going to hear that from him directly in the fourth half of this show, so you got to stick around to the end there. We're also going to talk about how the new presidential administration is coming in swinging and what they are doing about EV mandates and what this means for the rest of the automotive industry. The Shelby GT350, that's back, by the way, in all of its glory with now over 800 horsepower. Yeah, 800s. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about how Subaru has absolutely lost its mind with the new S210. I cannot understand what Subaru is thinking. It's a performance car. I should be excited for it. I think Subaru has gone off the deep end. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to build cars. We're going to get to, in theory, I'm going to squeeze all of that into this next hour that I have with you here on the radio. Of course, you can listen to this all across Southern Colorado, AM 1460 The Answer, and FM 101.1, by the way, 100.7 The Word, and 91.7 KLZR, or you might be checking it out on video, YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, Facebook, wherever fine shows, and this one are downloaded. You can hear it and see it on video. Now, this week, there was a tremendous cold snap. Last week, I talked a little bit about cold weather. It's been a reoccurring theme. I wonder why, because it's just been so darn cold. But this was really cold. This put my values, morals, ethics to the test. And by that, I mean the argument, the hill that I have been willing to die on, which is warming your car up. Should you do it? Yeah, I know. There's been weeks. I'm still talking about this. But here's the thing. You see, I said before in a debate with Jim Miller that I don't warm my car up. I just get in it. I put the seatbelt on. I let the oil pressure come up at least. I let that come up, and then I drive away. People on the internet said I was very wrong. Some people said I was right. Of course, the people who said I was correct are correct themselves. They have the correct stance on this issue, but my values were put to the test this week because I got up at about 4 a.m. last Tuesday to go fill in on our sister station here, Q102.7, and host the morning show and do some morning drive time radio. And, of course, you have to be up bright and early. You got to be up before everyone else is. They're just tuning into you as they're getting up. So you got to be up. You got to be up. But that was the coldest day this week. And at least at my house, when I was leaving, it was 4:30 in the morning. It was -9. Now, I posted about this on the internet, shared the little picture of the temperature in my gauge cluster. It was -9. And, of course, people from Canada and Alaska chimed in and said, those are rookie numbers. You got to pump those numbers up. And of course, I know. I mean, that's cold for here. Like Colorado, we're known for snow. We're known for the mountains. I can see Pikes Peak from the radio studio here, right off of Woodman and I-25. But that doesn't mean it's as cold here as it is, on Pikes Peak. I'll put it that way. But -9 was just darn cold. It was chilly. And when I started the car, I had a decision. Which was, do I let it warm up a little bit? Because at this point, the what shred of mechanical sympathy I have left was saying, come on, man, let that poor thing warm up. Let it warm up. Don't get on it. Don't do it. It's -9 out. That oil's thicker than molasses. So I admittedly, maybe it was more of a decision, less out of mechanical sympathy, but also more out of my own personal safety and well-being. -9, man, that's dangerous cold. That's really cold. The feels like temperature was like -30. And by the way, I'm saying -9 Fahrenheit in case, of course, if you're listening on the radio, you're here in Colorado, but I have a lot of listeners who listen on the stream and the podcast internationally. And so you might be in a country that uses communist units, I mean Celsius, and so you might be in a country that does that. -9, I think, is like -21 or 22 in communism units. So anyway, it's chilly. It's very chilly. And you know what I did? I let it warm up at least for like 2 minutes. I did. I went back. I caved on my values. I was ready to die on this hill. I stand to my values, even though I did let it warm up for like 2 minutes. I'll probably tell you that you shouldn't still, because modern cars, they're just made to work. They're made to work in cold temperatures. But, I'll say excuses. I'll say more or less it was so I could start it, run back inside and watch it for 2 minutes, grab my jacket and then my gloves and my hat and everything, really, and then go back into the car. So it was out of a sense of self-preservation, less of a, you must do it because the vehicle needs it. I still maintain that the vehicle, honestly, would have been fine if I just got in it and drove. I do maintain that. Mechanically speaking, it should be fine. And especially with, fuel injection. I mean, it starts right up. Doesn't even have an issue. No problems there whatsoever. Fuel injection, not an issue. Of course, the oil temperature takes a little bit to come up, but not that long, in my opinion. When I've looked at oil temperature gauges, it's like, okay, the oil is at 150 degrees long before the coolant is. Long before the coolant is. So, that's not as big of an issue, in my opinion, either. So, but man, did I kind of felt abusive, though. I really did. I got in my car. I said, I don't want to be out here in the cold right now. I certainly don't. And I certainly wouldn't want to get up and just go first thing in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, in the freezing, frigid Arctic weather that we had. But I asked my car to do it. So anyway. So hoping that you have been staying warm, though, all across the United States. This cold weather has really hit much of the United States, not just here in Colorado. And I believe the South got snow for probably the first time ever. And there was like snow in Alabama, which is crazy. I can't even imagine what trauma would be inflicted on the people that were there, like mental anguish and trauma. I don't know if they'll ever recover from that, quite frankly. I've been keeping up online, seeing pictures and videos of the snow in the South. And those people down in the South are not prepared for the snow. And I don't blame them because it never snows there. But I will say, regardless of where you live, you should at least have a vehicle generally equipped to handle snow. And if it's not, you know what you do? I hate to say this as a guy who never calls out of work. I go in regardless of how bad the weather is. You should probably just stay home. If you genuinely, this is just honest advice here. If your vehicle is not equipped for the snow, it doesn't have snow tires, doesn't have some sort of all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. And so if you're two-wheel drive, I don't care if you're front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, in the really bad, slick, slushy nastiness, if you don't have good snow tires, you're going to have some problems. Because people are like, oh, it's front-wheel drive. The car gets going better than a rear-wheel drive one. I don't care if the car gets going. The car needs to stop, by the way. Stopping arguably is more important than getting going. Because you see, if you get going, if you get up and you start moving, and then suddenly discover that you can't stop, you're in for much more of a problem than if you just were stuck and couldn't get moving. Jeremy Clarkson, famous quote from Jeremy Clarkson. It's, well, actually, it doesn't really apply to this. But you know what? I'm going to say it anyway. It's not speed that gets you. It's suddenly becoming stationary. That's what gets you. That actually kind of contradicts the point I was making, but it's a good quote. So I'm going to stick to it. But no, really, if you're not equipped for the snow, just don't even go out in it, because you then become a hazard to everyone else. So if you do live in a southern state, or you have family in a southern state that just suddenly got a bunch of snow, I mean, maybe if you got a pickup truck with 4-wheel drive and you don't really have snow tires, but you got good all-season, all-terrain tires, and you're careful, yeah, you'll probably be fine. I think a lot of issues are also, what did they say? Skill issues. But hey, hope you stayed warm, though. Hope it doesn't get any colder than it's gotten. Oh man, I don't know how much more I could put up with the cold weather. But hey, coming up after the break, we're talking about how the new presidential administration is tackling EV mandates, the automotive industry, and more. And Jim Miller has a big announcement at the end of the show.
We will revoke the electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto industry and keeping my sacred pledge to our great American auto workers. In other words, you'll be able to buy the car of your choice. We will build automobiles in America again at a rate that nobody could have dreamt possible just a few years ago.
This is Automotive ADHD with Matt West.
President Donald J. Trump, the 45th and now 47th president of the United States of America. You know, I'm playing that clip for a very specific reason. You know, I was listening to the live stream of the inauguration live when it was happening, and I heard him say that, and I said, man, I got to talk about that. I've been chomping at the bit now to talk about that, because that is very important what he said. It really is. And I want to give you some backstory here, because, I understand that, I'm talking here to you if you're listening on the radio, on conservative talk radio, and you likely agree with a lot of the things I'm saying in that sense, and a lot of things Donald Trump is saying. I mean, I'm preaching to the choir. I don't need to convince you of this. Who I do need to convince are some of my listeners on the podcast, because, this show, it started out as a podcast, gosh, almost 4 years ago now, which is crazy to think, but started out as a podcast, and I have generally tried to keep the show, away from politics. It's a car show, but somewhere along the lines, politics and cars started getting really involved. They started overlapping, because I realized that these things were happening. This legislation was coming down that wasn't good for consumers, wasn't good for enthusiasts, wasn't good for automotive business owners. And there's no one standing up for this. In fact, all you get from the automotive media is this sort of sense of just, we're just accepting what's going to happen. We're just accepting it as it is. And that never sat right with me. It didn't, because, EVs, it's the inevitable. It's the future. Sorry, enjoy your gas car with your manual transmission while it lasts. It's going away soon. That's what we saw from all the automotive media outlets, the big ones too. And it never sat right with me. And I said, you know what? This is dumb. Why are we just accepting it? We need to do something and fight for it. And that's what's been happening. And at least I'm doing my part to get the information out to you. I'm doing my part in getting that information out there, because no one wants to touch it. And I understand fully that me running a clip of Donald Trump and me agreeing with him is probably going to lose me some listeners. It's probably going to lose me some listeners on the podcast, online. It might lose me some longtime listeners. And that's something I just have to accept. That's something I have to accept, because I think this is very important. I think this is a significant turning point here, and we need to acknowledge that. So I understand that I might lose people, but that's what I have to do. And, with President Trump coming in and saying that, that echoes what I've been saying for this show for a long time as a reoccurring sort of trend whenever we talk about EVs, which is that we're not trying to cancel EVs. Okay, well, I did cancel Brian for buying an EV. He's excommunicated. He's exiled from the show, former official mechanic of the show. But look, some casualties happen in battle. That was just one of them. So there's nothing that can be done about it now. It is what it is. He still likes to remind me whenever I see him. He's, hang on, let me preheat my car real quick from my phone. Yeah, you do that. You do that with your fancy golf cart. But no, regardless, in all seriousness, having diversity in both how we have our energy, how we produce our energy is important, but how we burn that energy, that's also important. Having more than one way of transporting yourself in an automobile, that should be seen as honestly a good thing. And we're not trying to cancel EVs here. We're not trying to get rid of them. What I was saying, what I've been saying for the whole duration of this show, since I started it, was that we need both. I want to envision a world where we can just have both gas cars and EVs. People are like, oh, that's naive. That's not going to happen. Get with the program. No, I'm not going to get with the program. We're going to change the program. That's what we're going to do. And the thing about this too is that you have the ability, by not just mandating a certain technology, saying, I'm the government and I'm telling you, company, that you are not allowed to make these and you must make these now by this date. Well, for one, you are absolutely limiting yourself in innovation. You are. People are like, well, they're not going to invest in this technology unless we mandate it. On the contrary, if the technology is good and people want to buy it, it improves their lives. It actually is beneficial in such a way that people want to take their hard-earned money and give it to you in exchange for this product. Yeah, if that's good, if it's good enough to do that, manufacturers are going to say, wow, this is really good. How do we make it better? How do we make it better than the other guy, than the other manufacturer, what they're doing? How do we get more sales? People want this. Let's make it even better. That's where you get a lot of this innovation. But, telling companies that, well, you have to do this, that also stifles that innovation, because what if a company says, I got something better than an EV? I have a new thing and it's better. It's better than the gas car. It's better than an EV. Well, it's not part of the mandate, and it doesn't qualify for any of the rebates or the credits. So they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it. Mandates kill innovation. They kill stuff like that. They don't promote it. And that's what we're seeing the end of here with this. That's exactly what we're seeing the end of with the administration here. And SEMA, I love SEMA, by the way. I've talked about SEMA before on the show. That's how, when they started doing the RPM Act, that's how I started getting politically engaged with them, because SEMA stands up for you as the consumer. If you're just driving a car right now, you're not a car person, you just have a car. They stand up for you. They stand up for the companies that supply parts and repairs and work on your car. They also support the enthusiasts, guys like me, guys like Jim Miller. They support us, and they support the automotive business owners. And that's not just, we're not talking the big three in Detroit. We're talking mom and pop shops, your mechanic down the street, the custom car shop downtown, the drive shaft shop, the muffler shop. They support all of that. And what SEMA has done here, they've come out here with a statement, and I'll read it off here for you. It says, promise kept. SEMA thanks President Trump for his day one action to end EV mandates. And then they go on to say here, President Donald Trump kept a campaign promise yesterday, referring to the day after this was written the day after the inauguration, but he kept his promise yesterday using his executive powers on day one of his new administration to halt federal electric vehicle mandates. The Specialty Equipment Market Association, SEMA, on behalf of its over 7,000 members, I'm one of those members, by the way, it's over 7,000 members in the automotive aftermarket, and the nation's millions of automotive enthusiasts, applauds and thanks President Trump for this important promise. And that, I think, that says a lot. SEMA has been the one, if anyone is standing up for people in the automotive space, it's been SEMA. It has absolutely been SEMA. You think of them just as the car show. They're not just the car show. They do all this stuff all year round. The big car show that everyone posts about on social media, they go to the car show. All the influencers go there. I've also been there, but I'm not an influencer. But, they do that, sure, but it's all the stuff around the rest of the year that's really relevant for what they do. They go on to say here that on day one of his new administration, President Trump reclaimed the nation's freedom of vehicle choice, proclaiming the authority of the United States of America rather than the so-called United States of California. Yeah, I talked about that a few weeks back, that California, even despite all of this, has now pushed a 2035 gas car ban. They have. And you know what? States like Colorado, There's 17 states, aside from California, that follow California's CARB emission standards, and they follow everything California does. That's in a weird way. Why is California so powerful? Why are a bunch of people in California making rules that affect me in a state where I didn't even vote for those people in California to represent me? That's ridiculous. But I like how they said here, rather than the so-called United States of California. The SEMA, again, thanks Trump for his bold, decisive actions to deliver the will of the American people, a commitment to innovation, a belief in the freedom of vehicle choice, and a strong faith in the power of American ingenuity. And this is, by the way, being said now by SEMA President, CEO Mike Spagnola. And Spagnola, I think I said his name wrong there. I usually mispronounce people's names sometimes for comedic effect, but I won't do his because I like his. But anyway, SEMA goes on. He says, SEMA now urges the EPA to submit the California waivers over to Congress so that our lawmakers can utilize their Congressional Review Act authority to pull the plug on dangerous EV mandates. So here's the thing. Trump says federally we're not going to do the EV mandates, which is good. We do have one more hurdle, which does require being overcome, which is that California still has this. And we need, what they're basically saying is return the power to Congress. Congress consists of people elected to represent the constituents. That's how that works. California can't make a rule and then we just unanimously all just do it here. Just bureaucrats who even approved this? What? Like we just follow it here for some reason? That's not how that's supposed to work. So of course, if you are listening here in Colorado Springs, your new congressman just elected is Jeff Crank. So if you want to make your voice heard, his office is the one to do that at. And you can, of course, email him and get in touch with him on that. But anyway, so, let's take a look at what this means in the broader sense for the rest of the industry. Of course, like I said, we need to diversify how we use our energy. California is a great example. The fires in California, you saw all these stranded EVs because they ran out of charge and the charging infrastructure had gone down because of the fires. There was no electricity. But if you had a gas car with some jerry cans that you kept in your garage and you took those before you bailed out, you had a little more range. You had a little more flexibility there. That's not to say EVs won't get there in the future, but, likewise, if you look at how say a war, a hypothetical war would affect gas cars, right? Okay, well, all the natural petroleum production needs to go towards the war effort now, so there's less of it for people to use in their vehicles, and because of the war, there's a blockade, and we can't get foreign oil in from other places. Uh-oh, we're screwed. What do we do? Well, if you have EVs, it's the flip side of the coin. All right, well, we got some solar on the houses here. Maybe you have solar on your personal house. You can get in your EV and you can go around and go, drive around still. Like, we should just have both. Realistically, the best of both worlds is the way to do this. And I think this is only going to be a good thing. Trump, by the way, he's also saying that he wants to cancel the tax credits for EVs, and he is going to push to revoke that waiver that was granted to California to ban gas cars. So this is all good stuff. Now, hey, don't go anywhere. You're listening to Automotive ADHD. We'll be right back.
I can speak for a lot of them knowing that you will pry my 68 Mustang gear shift out of my cold, dead fingers. I yield back.
Oh, man. Got to get those car sounds into my show. Facebook.com/Automotive ADHD is the place to send those. Brandon's Jeep sounds. Not the first time that Jeep has been on the show, by the way. Not the first time, and maybe not the last time either. But Brandon has now straight piped the Jeep, he says. And you could tell that thing's got some rumble to it. I am a big fan of the 4.0 straight six. It's no secret that I'm a fan of those. Those are great engines, great Jeeps. I've got a 92 Jeep Wrangler in the fleet. I've referred to it lovingly many times as $800 stroker Jeep, and has a 4.6-liter stroker motor that I built with junkyard parts for like $1,300. It's a great all-around setup. The Jeep was $800, and then I built the motor for it. And it's so much fun when you have a vehicle like that. So I think Brandon, of course, has made a great choice with that Jeep. And you can send those car sounds, just like Brandon did, into my show. And you can have a chance to win some free stuff when you do it. We've been sending out Automotive ADHD care packages lately, which do include a few things. First of which is the Automotive, as heard on the Automotive ADHD show. I should point it out here, the sticker. I've got it on my water bottle here. The Automotive ADHD key tag, embroidered key tag. Nice product right there. And stickers, Jim Miller stickers, you get some of those. You also get whatever other surprise item I decide to throw in there. The past two couple of care packages had the Harbor Freight 10 millimeter replenishment kit. Yeah, I saw that at Harbor Freight and I said, I got to throw these in because it's a package of sockets, but they're all 10 millimeter sockets. I will say that I love that Harbor Freight is Harbor Freight is coming in with memes. That's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. They'll sell you a packet of sockets, but it's just 10s, and it's all sorts of 10s. Okay, maybe a 3/8 drive here, 1/4 drive there, impact here, 12-point here, 6-point there, long, deep, tall, whatever, which is funny. Now, they also have, and I saw this when I was at SEMA, not this year, but last year at their booth, they had the 24-karat gold ratchet, icon ratchet, which I saw that and I thought, oh, that's funny. That's good. Yeah, they're doing jokes with that. And then a few months later, I was at the local Harbor Freight right here in the Springs off of Academy and Woodman, and I saw it there on the shelf. Now, okay, yeah, sure, it had like the little lock on it, like it's like the expensive tools do, but it was there. They actually do that. I appreciate Harbor Freight for that. Not a paid endorsement in any way, shape, or form. I would love it. If you're listening at Harbor Freight and you're a rep there, come on, man, sponsor my show. You're missing out. You're missing out. And send me one of those 24-karat gold ratchets. So regardless, you might end up with some fun things if you send car sounds into the show. That's how easily I'd get distracted. I just went on a whole tangent about Harbor Freight. But if you do want to send those car sounds in, again, Facebook.com/Automotive ADHD is the place to do it. There's a pinned comment at the top of the page. You can comment, or pinned post that you can comment on and put it in there, or you can direct message it to me as well on the page. And I'll pick from the winners randomly to get the Automotive ADHD care packages. So if you send car sounds in, it could be you. So real quick here, I got to bash on Subaru, but before I bash on Subaru, Shelby has done some good things. Shelby American, this comes by way of Car and Driver. This Shelby American revives the GT350 name for an 810 horsepower beast. Yes, a beast. 810 horsepower does qualify. Let me look it up here in the dictionary. Yeah, that does qualify as a beast, by the way. So it comes with a 5-liter supercharged V8. Now, what's interesting about this is we saw the last GT350 go away in 2020, which it's crazy. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but it has. The last GT350 went away then. The GT350 is the more track-focused option out of all of the Mustang fleet here, all of the flavors of Mustang. I mean, it's the one that you can get that's going to handle very well. It's going to stop very well. It's going to just be great. And by track, I mean road course specifically. This is a handling Mustang, whereas you have the GT500, which is typically it's more of a straight line focused, just pure punch and power type of car. The GT350's never been the most powerful of them all, but it has been the most track focused, the one you can take to down to Pikes Peak International Raceway and go around the road course with, or Pueblo Motorsports Park, High Plains Raceway, any of those. But it is back, but it's got a lot of that punch and power to it. Gone is the Voodoo engine, though. The Voodoo engine was a 5.2-liter flat plane crank V8, which is fairly unusual in muscle cars, pretty common for European exotics. But that flat plane V8 had a 8,000 RPM redline, which is just ludicrous, made 526 horsepower. They weren't as reliable necessarily as some other options, and they do tend to be expensive to fix. They're a good sounding engine, though. I'll say that. But this new one, it sticks with the 5-liter V8, which can be found in the Mustang Dark Horse. And this is a Coyote V8, the Coyote family of V8s, you could say. But It's got a supercharger, and it cranks it up to 11. It absolutely does. 810 horsepower. Also interesting is that you can actually option this one either with a naturally aspirated engine at 480 horsepower or the 810. You could actually have both, depending on the type of track work you want to do, depending on maybe the class you want to race in your local series. Maybe you do need that lower horsepower one. Maybe that one actually makes more sense for what you're doing. So I like that. And importantly, yeah, it can come with an automatic transmission. Who cares? They're sticking with the manual on both options. Yeah, they're not just leaving the manual on the 480 horsepower one. No. It's also on the 810 horsepower one. So good on you, Shelby, for doing this. This is a special product really from Shelby. It's not officially something Ford's doing. Well, they are officially doing it, but it's not coming from the Ford factory. These all come out of Ford as Mustang dark horses. They ship them off to Shelby. Then Shelby does their magic, as they have done for decades now. Of course, harking back to the namesake, of course, Carroll Shelby. I mean, he was just a man who craved pure power and speed in the automotive sense. So good stuff on there. Now, I got to complain about Subaru. I said something good about Ford. Now I got to say bad things about Subaru. Subaru has the S210 that they unveiled at the Tokyo Auto Show earlier this month. And Subaru, what are they doing? What are they doing? Okay, so the VB generation WRX, that's the current one. It makes about as much power as the old STI, the performance version of the WRX. Because there's no STI version. That's typically the high performance one. There's none of that for the current generation car. Now, they're advertised differently in terms of power, the old gen STI versus the new VB. I've seen them on a dyno, same day, same dyno, back-to-back stock STI of the last gen, new generation of the VB. They're actually like a horsepower apart from each other. And the VB has a lovely flat torque curve. That turbo comes on and that torque is just flat from like 3,000 RPM all the way up to redline. But Subaru says, well, we're not giving you the STI. The regular WRX is good enough. You can get the TR version of it, which has the Recaro seats. There's no STI anymore. We're not doing it. And they've stuck to that until now with the S210, which is the successor of the S209. These are even crazier, allegedly. Historically, these have been crazier than the STI. These are much more, usually more powerful. They've got some crazy suspension mods, brake mods, aero stuff. They've got a wing, usually. Here's the problem, though. The new S210 that they unveiled, it sucks. Yeah, I'm going to say it. It sucks. So here, firstly, it makes 296 horsepower, 277 pound-feet of torque, which is not much up from the 271 of the base model car. Secondly, they're saying they're only going to do 500 of these limited production ones. And it's unclear if any of them are even going to come to the United States. And lastly, there's no manual transmission. What on earth is Subaru thinking? Who are they selling this to, for one? It only comes with the CVT. Yeah, you want a rare one of 500 S210 Subaru WRXs, and you have to put up with the CVT. Oh, it shifts faster on track. No, we buy sports cars because they're fun to drive. We're not buying them always for those lap times. It's a lot of enthusiasts aren't. So Subaru clearly has lost their mind. They should probably just at this point be taken around back and put down because we can't. What do we do? What do we do, Subaru? Just make this with a manual and make more than 500 of them. Or bring the STI back. So, you're listening to Automotive ADHD. We're talking to Jim Miller. He's got a big announcement coming up.
車はもっと素敵な乗り物になるんですね。新しいサスペンションペガサスを得て今トヨタのすべての技術はファントゥードライブの世界へ。トヨタ。
Some call him the Toyota God. Others say he ran for mayor.
Introduce you to the candidates running for mayor. So today it's Jim Miller.
One of your priorities that you've laid out is fixing the roads in Colorado Springs.
Jim Miller.
Mr. Miller, you also have 30 seconds.
That was Jim Miller, just a guy.
All we know is he's just a guy with more cars than friends. Jim Miller is on Automotive ADHD.
Yes, he is. Jim, welcome onto the show. See, you now need no introduction. How was that for a surprise there?
That was a wonderful surprise.
I told you I had a surprise for you, and you thought it was something bad, probably so.
I feel like fancy people that can afford condoms and napkins now. I feel like I can afford all the rich people stuff now.
Yeah, you got your own intro and everything. I love this. And you have some very exciting news. I've been talking on the show, the whole show, hyping up that you have an exciting announcement. And this is really cool. If you've been following along with the show, you know that Jim, of course, from that segment there, he ran for mayor. But now, what are you doing now?
Me? I am actually running for city council in District 5 in Colorado Springs. I'm official. I'm on the ballot. I'm full shebang.
Awesome. See, this is what we need. We need, for one, we need people like you in government in general. And now you're making another bid for it. You're going into government.
Yeah, but let's not sugarcoat it in any kind of fashion or way. We know I don't really like government. I don't really like politicians. I don't really care for the excessive bureaucracy and the lack of freedoms and rights and choices that we seem to not have as much of anymore. So I am not a politician, but I think I'll make an outstanding representative.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, is representing the people. Now, Jim, tell me a little bit about, because this is a car show too, Tell me your stance on cars here in Colorado Springs. If you are a member of city council, what are you doing for the car enthusiast here in town?
Hey, it's your private property. That's your private property to do what you want to do with it. I don't think you need to be registering if you're making a track car, doing a build, making an off-road truck. I don't care if you're doing it with your own thing. It's your stuff. I do kind of agree with the don't park it unregistered on the streets part, but at your house, on your property, do what you're going to do. Live your life, build your cars, have fun, do your stuff. You shouldn't be told what to do, and you shouldn't be, you need to register it. We're building it. We're getting parts. Who cares? You're making an off-road truck. Who cares? It's a track car. Who cares? Leave the people alone. Let us have our work away from work and our stress away from stress.
I love it. And what you're referencing to, and if you're following along at home, we talked about this a few months back on the show. Colorado Springs has an ordinance that says you cannot have a car parked on your property outside if it's not registered. And that includes your driveway, by the way. If you have a car that's not registered, you got to park it in the garage. Why is that? That is a ridiculous ordinance. I understand not parking your car on the street, right, if it's not registered, but in your own driveway, that's insane. And previously, you confronted the mayor about that. We did a whole segment on
it, yes.
And he's not friendly to our shared perspective on that.
Look, for such an era of quote-unquote diversity, people get upset with people that ain't the same as them. And with these, especially these politicians, these career-type politicians, telling you how to live instead of telling you to go live. Life's short, it's fleeting, it's exhausting. Let people do their thing a bit. It's fine. It's just cars, man. They're acting like you're doing problem. We have real crime and real problems. We don't need to be bothered. And I tell you what, too, another thing, if any of these car people, you guys ever bothered code or the city or anything, you come get me. I'll tell them to get back on the sidewalk and get off your property and leave you alone. I firmly stand with that. That is not their business to be telling you what to do with your stuff.
Absolutely. I agree with you on this. I don't know if anyone has ran for city council who shares these values and beliefs with this type of thing. Now, Jim, let's move on to this, too. What are your thoughts on speed cameras and red light cameras?
No more. We've already been through this a number of times. There's no person, no nothing. You're getting ticketed by a machine. It's not proper. It's not right. It's a waste of our tax money. Remember, everything paid for by the government is paid for by you, me, him, all of us. We get stuck with the bill. And then they go, you paid for this stuff, so here you go. Here's a ticket on top of it. No on all that stuff. I don't want the vans. I don't want the mobile speed unit, none of that. Look, as far as I'm concerned with the law enforcement stuff, there is more important things. Don't be speeding near churches, schools, parks, daycares, in neighborhoods, for crying out loud. I'm not condoning speeding or something or running red lights.
Right.
I'm just saying no to the cameras and the non-representation for the violation.
Well, that's exactly what happens with these cameras. And whether it's the speed cameras, whether it's the red light cameras, you don't get to face your accuser. You don't get a say in any of it. And you also don't get the discretion that, for example, getting pulled over by an actual police officer lends you, because at the end of the day, the discretion for the ticket is up to the officer. And you can say, maybe you actually had a good reason for that. Maybe your wife was giving birth and you were getting to the hospital, right?
It could have been icy and snowy. Who knows? There's a number of things that do. We're human beings. We're fallible. Keep the humanity in this stuff. I know I'm sick of it. There's not enough humanity left in any of this crap anymore.
Yeah, and previously on the show, I've reached out to City Council to comment about some of the security concerns as well relating to the speed camera, specifically the vans. And these vans that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, we did the math here on the show, how much Aurora had spent on the vans. Bringing that back to here, it's basically the same program.
Aren't they unmarked vans too?
Well, and they have to have signs in front of them now.
Oh,
but
they do now.
Yeah. But having said that, they're really expensive, and there's security and privacy concerns with that. And no one from City Council would talk to me about it. I reached out to my district's councilman. I talked to briefly in passing to Lynette Crow-Iverson as well, and she gave me just the runaround the entire time.
The political answer? Well, if it's up to this and that and something, yada, 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 take a stance or get out of the way. That's my notion on all this stuff.
Absolutely. So, Jim, what is your take then, as a member of City Council, say you get elected here, you win the election. What are you doing?
When I win.
When you win.
There we
correct.
go.
Correct. You got me.
Yeah, that's what you told me. When I win.
When I win. So when you win, what are you doing? What is your main objective getting in there?
Look, everybody says roads. I'm going to go find out who's supposed to be responsible and hold them accountable for not doing the maintenance on the roads. I think that's the best start right there with that. A lot of this other stuff with the car stuff, you guys are going to be left alone to live your life. You're going to be able to allowed to do work at your property and stuff without being bothered or harassed by a system. Anonymous calls to the city, bring someone to your house. No more of that. If someone calls, they call the city, they call the code, they call whatever they call. There's going to be a newer thing that I'm going to push for. The code enforcement and the city stuff is going to show up as a mediary, an advocacy. Mm-hmm. The accuser and whoever's accused can show up and talk about it. I think that'll build forth a much better sense of community. Law enforcement stuff, I'll be straight with you. We don't need window tint cops. We need law enforcement that's fighting real crime, real problems. Rapists, pedos, sex traffickers, drugs, all this, the thieving. I'm tired of the thieving. I'm tired of all the problems. The real stuff. Not chasing expired registrations and window tints and nonsense. It doesn't matter. I'm tired of the revenue generating nonsense. I want to feel I'm somewhat comfortable and safe in my own community and neighborhood and city. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm pretty sure we're all on point and together on that one.
I think we all are on point on that. Now, Jim, what are some of the next steps to get into the council? What do we need to do? What do people listening, if they say, hey, I like that guy, he represents my morals, values, and ethics, it is resonating with what I'm saying, what needs to happen between now and the election? And give us some info on that election. When's it happening?
The election, it's voting on April 1st is the last day. That's the counts and all that. I think, don't quote me exactly, I think they go out March 7th, I think, is the earliest day the ballots go out. They're mail-out ballots.
Mail out,
check your mail. Keep a good eye on it. If you're in District 5, obviously vote for me. Jim Miller for Colorado Springs. That's the website. I actually have a campaign manager who volunteered to do all this. I have a lot of good, hardworking people that are about this. It's the curse of politics too. Let's not lie. It does take money and donations and to fight against these big boys that are bought by corporations and land developing and all this other nonsense that doesn't want to keep keep Colorado Springs what it's supposed to be. We got to fight against them. Every cent, every dollar helps. You can help out that, putting stickers on and spreading the good word.
I love it. Jim Miller for City Council. Let's go. Check it out. Follow the website. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We might continue some of this on as a bonus podcast as well. You got to check that out. YouTube, Spotify, wherever fine shows in this one are downloaded. We'll talk to you next week on the radio right here.